a lot of people on the Facebooks trying to get the YouTube thing up there. Yeah, that's for and so we had a Clay Helton media conference call today, and just before this, and there was a lot of questions. I did a podcast with Harvey Hyde earlier today, and a lot of people were talking about, hey, Jack Sears should start. Like, basically, that's what they're saying. Like, we like him better than JT Daniels. He should start. Clay Helton made it very clear that is not going to be the case. If JT Daniels is cleared, he will be the starter. So we'll know more on Tuesday to see if he's cleared. So anyone that felt, hey, Jack Sears was better, but whatever, that's not what Clay Helton is thinking. So moving forward, it's going to be JT Daniels if he's healthy, and then Jack Sears is there, available, if you need him. But I don't know what you guys think of that.
Cool. So now what do you think? Do you think that's correct?
I don't have an issue with it. Like, I feel like there's a lot of there's some people coming down on JT Daniels, and I feel like it's more on the preparation side. And I've just said this a million times. Like, they asked JT Daniels to do a whole lot, and I think with Matt Fink when he's in, they coach around him. They try to do things. They ran stuff with Jack Sears that JT Daniels could run, but they don't do it. Like the throws to the tight end, like the swing passes, stuff that looked like an offense that was designed to help a quarterback. We don't see that with JT Daniels. Now, I don't know, maybe they call those kind of things and he just says, I'm going to throw it deep. I mean, unless that's happening, but it just seems like they expect him to be Sam Darnold, where they don't expect Matt Fink or Jack Sears to be that way. They actually run what looks like a pretty cohesive offense. And there was a 5-minute stretch there for USC where they scored 21 points, end of the second quarter, beginning of the third. That was nice. But it kind of reminds you of like the Colorado game, the second quarter, where all this offense came in. All USC's offense kind of came between, 2 minutes left in the half, and then 3 minutes afterwards. They got a good drive. The two best drives, the only two third down conversions they had were on those two drives, those two touchdown drives. One of them came by a penalty, and then one was like a 3rd and 1. Those are the only two. So we talked about sustained drives. There really wasn't. There was an 8-play drive and a 9-play drive, but those were nice. And then USC gets the short field after the Manny Wilkins fumble, and it was the throwback to Tyler Vaughns, who my boy threw the touchdown pass to Michael Pittman. Don't get down on Tyler Vaughns because he didn't catch that touchdown pass. He returned a punt for a touchdown. He threw a touchdown pass, and he caught a touchdown pass. So that's pretty freaking good. So yes, he caught some other balls that got called back for penalties and things like that. But I thought he was fine. But that was like all the offense, and that stretch was really nice. But that was like a 5-minute stretch. And then outside of that, things got a little hairier.
Jack actually said, I asked him, when did you kind of feel like you had settled in? He said on that 2-minute drive. And it was that 22-yard scramble up the middle that kind of got things going for USC's offense, got him. I asked Brian Ellis about it, and I said, do you think it happened then? He's like, I don't know if he had to get hit or what it was, but it seemed like right around that was when the timing, when he kind of settled in. Now, it took him a quarter and a half to get going, maybe almost a full 2 quarters, because his first 3 drives were the fumble. He got sacked on third down. He got sacked on third down. Those were his first 3 drives. So that they did pick up the 1 third down later in that drive. They got it on a run.
It's like 3rd and 1.
Yeah, 3rd and 1.
That was the only third down play that worked. That wasn't a penalty.
Yeah. So
not bueno.
They had one earlier in the game. They had one
that
third
was a
and
PI.
1 early. No, they had a 3rd and 1 early in the game.
There was only 2 conversions in the whole game.
There was 1 3rd and 1 on the second drive. They got 22 yards on it on a pass play.
Did they not count the penalty one as the?
And then they got 1 in the second half on the first drive.
Okay.
Second half. Those are the 2 conversions. No, because it's not a play.
You so have a penalty. Conversion?
Okay. It depends on which the penalty is. If it's after the play, during the play, that type of thing.
All right. Yeah, it was a pass interference, so I guess they.
Yeah, so it's no play. Does not count.
Gotcha. All right.
All right. Well, first off, welcome in YouTube. We're sorry we had an issue. We're up and running now. We're good to go on that front.
I think if you're we'll probably put up the full video on YouTube afterwards.
You can get to the beginning.
Yeah.
But zooming
if you're watching here live, we'll put up the full one later. You can watch on Facebook.
Zooming out a little bit on the full scope of the season, what this loss does for this team. USC is now 4-4 overall, 3-3 in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 South race is pretty much over for USC, barring some crazy Utah collapse.
Clay Helton says they're only 1 game back. But the tiebreaker too, he mentioned.
Two games back.
So that's 2 games back.
We'll see about that. But as far as hot seat and Clay Helton for this coaching staff, what does this loss in this season look like going forward?
In Fuego. Yeah, like we said, there's consensus on the message boards. There's consensus on Twitter. We have a lot of converted, hey, I'm a former pumper. Emails, we get texts, we get tweets. I was former Sunshine Pumper, and I think they need to go. So that's not a good sign for Clay Helton. He's sticking to the course, and he's getting ready for Oregon State. They are 2 games back to Utah, and Utah looks like, if not the best, the second best to Washington State, who ironically USC beat already. But Utah looks really good. Oregon doesn't look as good. That's the game you thought, okay, Utah can lose to Oregon, and if USC sweeps, Utah lose to Oregon, they can still make it. But right now, you're going to ask this Utah team to lose 2 games. I don't see that happening. USC, every game they're going to be in is like a coin flip. Like, it's going to be tough for the Trojans to kind of run all the way through. So I think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But for his hot seat, I don't know. I asked him on the conference call today. I tried to get this last week, but I guess it was better this week because I'm like, 2 losses in a row. The winning streak's over. The home winning streak's over. 19 games, that's gone. They had a 10 or 11 Pac-12 South winning streak. That was over against Utah. It's a time to make some significant changes. And I didn't say specifically like fire a coach or padded practice, whatever. I just said significant changes. And he basically said this week they're just going to focus on Oregon State, and that's what they got to do. And after the season, that's something they could look at. So it seemed a little bit like, hey, he's willing to make changes, but he's not going to do it now. And I had Coach Harvey Hyde on the podcast today, and he said, Georgia lose that, Georgia, of course, they lose that game. Reportedly, and I couldn't find a report on this, but he was talking to his coaching circles. What they did the next week in practice was like hell week. Like it was like back to fall camp.
Yep.
After losing 1 game,
They did have a bye week after their loss, so.
But then before
they had a bye week before the Florida game.
But before the bye week, they did like a hell week.
Sure,
or something.
you're not taking 2 practices, no pads, and early.
Right. Yeah. USC had a bye week too, and there were some bad things going on, and didn't do anything like that. So that's what you were kind of looking for. If you're looking for that, I don't think it's going to happen.
There will be a change. No pads November is coming up.
And it might be this week. We'll find out.
Is that really a change? It's the same as they've done before.
It is the same, yeah.
It's a change from now.
But it did sound like he would be willing to make some sort of change after. So we'll see.
But my issue is, I feel
if
like
if he's still around.
If he can. My issue is, I feel like this reassessment, this change should have happened last season. This should have happened coming into the season. Maybe a different O-line coach. Maybe you look at different coordinator options. To be thinking about this after this season, I think is a little too late.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan Weber said it best after the Texas game. If you don't make changes, the change is going to be you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why this coaching staff is so resistant to change. It's not working. We have proof now. It's not working, and why not try something? I don't know.
There's a philosophy there, and they have their plan, and they just want to stick to the plan. And they've seen success before. They were 1-3 in 2016 and turned it around and won the Rose Bowl by sticking to the plan. And I feel like that's what they're doing. He said they're close. That's the one thing. He said they're close, and it's kind of like close to what? Like close to beating the team that was in last place in the Pac-12 South. Yes, you were close to doing that, but that's not when you're talking about championships and you're talking about making the college football playoff. Being close to 5-3 versus 4-4 against Herm'd and Arizona State, that's not close to what your goal is. That's close to winning this game that you should just win handily anyway.
I mean, it's rough. Because the interesting thing about this team is Shotgun was they'll handle ASU, but USC's so inconsistent that you don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know going forward. Okay, they on paper should win these games.
Yeah.
But with this team, they're so inconsistent that you don't know, and that to me points to coaching because they're talented enough.
It is talented.
Well, they're talented enough when they have all the players on the field. If you have 3 defensive captains,
do not give me
and all 3 defensive captains are out, 1 at each level, your defense is not going to be as good. Are those 3 guys worth 3 points? I think so.
Okay,
So,
shotgun.
in my opinion, they would have beat Arizona State if they had some health.
Shotgun.
What is true? That is a true statement.
At Shotgun SPR,
If you have a ton of guys out, it's going to be difficult, especially when you have 3 senior captains.
Arizona State returned.
Robertson, I know people want to bring him up as, USC didn't recruit him. Well, he's been playing the entire year. He's gotten better as the season goes on. USC's having to go, all right, Jonathan Lockett, when's the last time you played? 2.5 years ago?
And he played a good enough game.
Get in there. And that's
Pellier now Teote is like not a drop off from,
he's not a drop off so much that he got benched because he couldn't mind his gap control. And granted, that's something that's going to happen with a freshman, but when you're having to put in several different players, and even the guys you want to use as backups to John Houston, you want to use Levi Jones and a dime package or different things. Well, he gets hurt. Now he's out. They moved Jordan Iosefa to middle inside linebacker because there basically was no other options. When it was either put Ruben Peters in there, or they thought Kanai was doing a good job, so they said, "All right, let's try and move Jordan Iosefa there." And they did. There's stopgaps there that help out, and that works. But I would say with 3 defense captains are worth 3 points. Now everyone has injuries. I understand that. They should have still won this game. I'm not using that as an excuse, but it is impacting the team in that way. Now the question becomes, why are you having so many injuries? They've got 15, 20 guys out.
We get a lot of questions about that too. People about training, strength and conditioning, nutrition, whatever.
I don't know the answer to it, but it is. It's lingering through the team. Is it a mentality? Can you not play through these certain injuries? What exactly it is? When you have broken bones, you have concussions and stuff. That's not just they're not playing through stuff. He's not playing.
Right.
He's being
you break
lazy
a
and not
collarbone,
playing. Yeah.
You have a broken collarbone. One of the theories, or one of the things that we get a lot on the podcast, or we had at least earlier today, was when you don't, and so the argument about not practicing hard is that you don't want to get hurt. But there's a point to, if you're not practicing hard, it makes it a lot harder in the games. And then you can get hurt easier in the games because it's like you're playing touch football and then all of a sudden you're playing tackle. It's like, holy cow, everything hurts. So there's kind of both argument, like, hey, do you need to practice harder, even though you might get hurt in practice, but you have to sharpen, the iron sharpens iron thing. You're not getting very sharp in practice when you're thudding or at most, and so I think that's one of the kind of theories.
And I'm glad that they don't use that phrase all the time. They use it sometimes, iron sharpens iron, because
there ain't no iron being sharpened.
it's like iron and lead or something. Iron and like graphite. Like the iron's just going right through it. Like that, and that's what's happening with the scout team. You put the scout team out there and then you tell the scout team, don't undercut anybody, don't injure anybody, on a deep pass or something. You lay off, and then you go up. And I love Tyler Vaughns, but he's got to catch that ball for the touchdown. Now, what I think happened is I don't think he realized the defender was there.
Yeah.
So he didn't, secure it in, the same way he might if he'd known the guy was there. But, that's kind of like, okay, I'm open on this. And I think it was actually a backside defender that he wasn't expecting to come over to help out there. But that's kind of like a scout team. He's like, okay, I'm going to catch this, and there's nobody here. Whereas, if you're constantly hounded by your scout team or whoever you're playing in practice, you just naturally wrap up all the time.
Yeah.
You don't ever treat it like you're running routes on air. And that's not just at Tyler Vaughn's. There's a lot of things that are similar to that where, if you don't go up against certain blocks every day in practice, if you don't get out on screen passes in practice as an offensive line, you're not going to get out and do that in a game. And it all comes back to the practice. Now, I know it's very difficult as a coaching staff to kind of balance that. All right, we want to get tougher, we want to be physical. How do we balance that when we've got some injuries? And if you practice hard all the time, maybe you don't have all the injuries. It's difficult to say.
Right.
And it's kind of one of those balancing conundrums. It's hard to figure out. The basketball team's going through injuries too, and they there's not like basketball where you go really soft in practice. There's no. You have to practice hard at all times in basketball.
No high tops today. Or
no scrimmaging is basically what it'd be in basketball, which you scrimmage every single day. And they've had a scrimmage yesterday and had 5 guys. That was it. So maybe there's something with the food being served at Little Galen or something. I don't know, because there's injuries all over the campus right now, and it's affecting the team. How do they get over them? I don't think that they can do that. I don't think the coaching staff can make enough adjustments to get them over. Now, what I did like about it was that the adjustments they made for the offense. Now, they some of those things they do with J.T. Daniels, they roll him out of the pocket sometimes. They did a lot more things to be creative with Jack Sears. They also, broke out the double pass. They did some different things to help him out.
Flea flicker, yeah.
And it was all things
Bubble screens
to try to ease on him. And Clay made a good point. The offensive line played better. They did. Played much better than they did against Utah because they were awful in that game. But he said, the 4th and 1, I really feel bad about it. That was really the only play where they had penetration. Okay, that's true. They only had one carry by a running back was a negative yardage play. However, I pointed out of their last 5 carries, only one gained more than 1 yard. In crunch time, you couldn't get it done.
Yeah. No, that's.
I mean, and that also goes to the whole practicing point. Like, how many times do we see them go red zone, do stuff like running plays where it's all on the line? We don't see that. We don't see them do things where when they're called upon, they're supposed to do it. So, I mean, it's asking a lot of your players to, in crunch time on Saturdays, okay, you barely have done this. Now do it perfectly and do it right because the game's on the line. It's just, I feel like it's unfair to the players if you're not having them practice like that.
I think it's one thing to block on 1st and 10 where it could be a run or a pass, and then when it's 4th and 1 and everybody knows it's coming, have you done that in practice? Have you done it when they're gearing up? Everyone's going to try to stop the run. It's just hat on hat, man on man. You got to push your dude off, and they didn't push their dudes off, and that's and that's where you want to talk about that. We probably have questions about the 4th and 1 thing, right?
We actually don't.
Okay. Well, do you want to So I'm not going to be a hypocrite because when we were in the press box, I didn't really like the way they did it because Clay Helton really wasn't sure. He didn't see it was 4th and 1. I thought the initial 4th and 1 was just go for it. He lines up for a field goal, then calls a timeout, and then goes for it. You kind of get a chance everything's set up. So that was kind of weird the way that happened, but I had no issue with them going for it. I'm not going to say play call or whatever, but I know some people are like, you should never go for it. You should kick the field goal. You could tie the game, which I get. But my initial thought was, that's cool, go for it. So I'm not going to say you shouldn't have gone for it.
Take the points. You take the points. Your third string quarterback, your offense.
37-yarder too. I mean, I completely agree. I think you tie. And there's 10 minutes left in the game at the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's too early to go for it. You just go ahead and tie. You sit back and you play some defense. And the next drive, they got a defensive stop. They forced a punt. They got a short punt too, 29-yarder. So now you take over the ball and now you can rally up the guys. Maybe they have more motivation to go win the game versus trying not to lose it. I don't know. This team, the motivation always is of concern.
Yeah.
But to give them credit, they did come out. They bookended the halves with scores. I thought that once the half was over, I was like, this game's over. They actually came back and showed some fight for the first time, I think, in the whole season. So credit them for that.
That was a great 2-minute drill to end the half. Then obviously the 9-play drive to start the third quarter.
Yeah.
Short field, instant touchdown. And they were going to score again. And Tyler Vaughn's gets an offensive pass interference where it's kind of like a screen pass that he was blocking on. But they let the screen go too far. They went past the line of scrimmage. I think, Shotgun, you had pointed that out. So that was really what was going on. And then there's 1st and 25. So that really killed that drive. And that's kind of the last time they really had something good going until the end. So they had some really good momentum, going there. But for that 4th and 1, it's I think if you look at the statistics, like the analytics and all that stuff, if it's 4th and 1 and, most situations, you're in almost the red zone or whatever, most situations, I think they say you're better off, your point expectancy is higher if you go for it on 4th and 1 more than you kick a field goal. I know it's a specific situation because you can actually tie the game. But I'm not going to be critical now. When I first thought, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Go for it.
No.
Yeah, I would have tied the game. I mean, if you're down 4, I can understand. And you're down any other number besides being able to tie it. If you're down 2, would you still have gone for it? Or would you try to take the lead? You would take the lead, right?
Yeah, probably you take the lead.
I think you try to even the thing, especially at home. You play for the tie at home. That's always the saying is you play for the win on the road, you play for the tie at home late in games. I think with the home crowd and with the streak and everything, I think you play for the tie there. They didn't get it though, but they had another opportunity. They had 4th and 3 again, or 4th and 2, and Clay was like, let's punt it this time. And he said, well, we thought we'd get the ball back. Well, they got the ball back. They just gave up a touchdown along the way.
Whoops. We have a question. Let's move to those now.
I'll look at some of these Periscope ones real quick.
We have a question from Bobby who says, you
Periscope.
kind of answered it, but has Helton ever been on a team where changes were made like what is suggested? I don't think he knows how to do it.
Well, at USC, I mean, I don't remember Lane Kiffin coming in making
Lane
some.
got fired. There was significant change there. He was on that staff.
Yeah, no, but I mean, as far as like the head coach going, you know what, this isn't working. We're going to do this. Like, I don't think Sark only had 15 or 16 games, so he didn't really have an opportunity to do that.
I mean, Ed O changed kind of the culture of the team, so I think you saw that there was a change. Now, granted, that's a much bigger with the head coach. You don't usually see position coaches being fired in the middle of the season or significant changes. Like, it takes something significant. Oklahoma. I think that's a different situation because that was an inherited coach with Mike Stoops. I remember Washington State fired their special teams coordinator when they were god-awful that one year.
Yeah.
Like, they were losing games because of that. I think that's what it kind of takes. And you could probably say the same thing about USC special teams early in the year, and they have made a complete 180. I mean, this giving up the punt return was kind of the first pretty bad play that they've had. And that one, I think, was
just still had a couple penalties, I think, on special. I mean, it's not super clean.
Well, they've been
They were a lot better than what
night
they
and
were,
days
yeah.
since the Texas game. So I give them credit there. But I just don't think that's something that's not normal necessarily in the college football ranks is to fire someone midseason. Usually just kind of wait it out as far as a position coach. Sometimes you'll see some demotions or promotions. That's a question that's been asked a couple times by, I think, Jasper. It's like, do you think T. Martin would take a demotion to receivers coach?
I mean, he would take whatever because it's not really up to him. It's up to Clay Helton.
So. No, I mean, like if it happened after the season and like it's like, hey, we're going to demote you. I don't think he's.
I don't think you're. That's like moving a pawn in a. You're playing a grandmaster in chess. Like that's not. You don't demote T. Martin after the season. It's like you fire him or you do something else. But I wouldn't say. That's really making minute change. You can't do that. Like that doesn't make much sense.
Well, if you say like, "Hey, we love you as a recruiter and everything. We don't like your play calling," you could try to do that. I don't think he would go for that.
No, I don't think he's going.
Do you think while we're on this topic that the wide receivers coaching is kind of declined a little bit? The fundamentals of the wide receivers. I think that's hard for T. Martin to be offensive coordinator and be a wide receiver coach at the same time. I think he's spread too thin.
He's developed guys. I mean, he's put a lot of dudes in the NFL. I mean, they start with 5-star guys, but I think the position's played well. But I think there's been some kind of a drop off there too. And
I mean, the blocking on the outside is not quite the same as it was a couple years ago. I mean, Darius.
And he was focused on that.
Darius and Juju were very good outside run blockers as well. I think Darius ended up being the number 1 in the nation or something by Pro Football Focus grades and stuff. Whereas now, if you look at the USC's run grades, you'll see Amon-Ra St. Brown is usually pretty high, and the rest of the guys are pretty low. Yeah. As far as on the offense, is run blocking. So. I think that there has been a drop off there, and I think that's part of what happens. If you move your pieces around, if you move an asset from one area to another, then you expect there to be a change of some sort. And for USC, unfortunately, it's been a downgrade at the wide receiver position.
We had Bro Incognito said should have had 29 in on the 4th down instead of 28. So Cedric Ware. Actually, Clay Helton was asked about that in the press conference, and he said full confidence in Cedric Ware, who ran really well. What did he finish with?
64.
Where is it?
64 on 13 carries.
Yeah, he almost 5 yards a carry. So he's, I had no problem with the way Cedric Ware was running. I don't have a problem with that in that situation. But
and he's a guy that they've used in that, those 3rd and short situations. They used him last year actually in that same situations too. So
statistically, Sed has actually been better than Vi in short yardage situations, but I just feel like Vi is more of a bruiser type. Like he'll just like pound his way through, but I don't know. I don't know if that really makes a difference. If you're not blocking well, does it really make a difference?
He had a 41-yard carry, which is his longest of his career, but then his other 4 carries went for 10 yards. So it
wasn't like he did a lot. We talked about the offensive line and the blocking, and Bro Incognito also wanted to know any reason they haven't replaced Toa yet. His snaps are awful and slows down the offense at the start. Yeah, there were a lot of low snaps. Oh, was there a question?
So we got a question from...
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Jorge, who says, are low snaps just a fact of life now that we're going to live with and just accept and ignore? Because I want to give props to Jack Sears. He did a great job fielding balls that were all over the place. And with your first start, it's a hard thing to do. But it just seems like they're just accepting where Toa is with his inconsistency. Where
he's the center.
He's a center.
That's what Clay Helton says.
That's something, it has been accepted. I think that's where you're at right now. It is what it is.
I mean, he's definitely good enough to play on the offensive line, but I think they'd probably be better off if he wasn't at center. Now, directly, I wanted to kind of go through and watch because people were tweeting me during the game about there's another one. I mean, I don't know how many of them were.
There were a lot.
But there were a lot.
I have the best view of it.
With your shooting? Yeah.
There were a lot.
So maybe if Keely stays healthy this week, she was actually thinking about putting together a compilation of the Utah snaps to see exactly where they were. So we might be able to do that this week if she can stay healthy.
I'll do like a GIF and put all of them overlay each other and see where they go.
Whoa.
Maybe. We'll see.
That's ambitious.
It is very ambitious.
We're getting into soccer. A bit ambitious.
A bit ambitious. We had a lot of people commenting about the stadium and how pretty much no fans came, and they said it was disheartening for them. Do you think that's something that boosters and the people who make the decisions pay attention to?
No, I think so. I mean, Lynn Swan walked right in front of the press box. So we're in the temporary press box there, and Lynn Swan was right in front of us, like saying hi to some people and stuff. And one kind of crazy fan came up to him and like, I think he was just trying to avoid him because he was someone that was going to be confrontational. And but there was more people on the press box side because there's more shade there. I know it was the middle of the day. It was hot. You guys were down on the field, but I think less people wanted to go on the is it the north side? I guess it is, where it was kind of direct sunlight. At least for some of the people I talked to. I mean, I didn't take a picture at kickoff because I thought that'd be a little bit mean, but I took a picture like at the end of the first quarter, like a wide picture, and there's a lot of empty seats,
Yeah.
And the problem is USC gets down 24/7, and people are leaving. And like I've heard, we can hear people. We're like right there next to people in the press box, and I've heard people go like, "Hey, you want to go to the bar?" and stuff like that. Like, and there was a lot of that going on, and. So by the halftime, people weren't coming back. It was pretty dead in there. It felt like you were in a museum or something, and not a library. It didn't feel like you were in a game. And I think that's the boosters see it. The boosters that are paying like the $20 million or whatever to buy one of those boxes, like that's not the product they want to see on the field. Yeah. So I think that the environment's not great. You can blame some of that on the construction, and I think the administration will do some of that. That construction, it was never going to be good. But you look at the field and you look at what the product is on the field, it's just not very good. And I think people notice that. You have so many better options if you stay home and watch the World Series and watch all the other games and everything else that's going on. I get it. So I'm not blaming the fans, but I do feel like, long answer, that people notice.
Yeah.
Are those boosters even at the games, or are they off at... I mean, the thing is, in LA, you're not just a fan of USC. There are some alumni that's their only, especially people that are transplants that come to LA to go to USC and they stay in LA. Those people are just here for USC. That's their only fanhood there. But you take an example, USC Psycho, a friend of mine. He's a Dodgers fan. He's a Kings fan. He's a Lakers fan. His main thing is USC, but is everyone's main thing USC? Not necessarily. There's people that are Dodgers fans first. Right. So if your product is not, you have to put together an entertaining product, and if you're winning, that makes it much more entertaining. So that's why you see today the Rams, whereas, 2 years ago when they first moved to the Coliseum, you could find everyone dressed up as an empty seat, as they like to say. Whereas today, the place was packed. Now, granted, a lot of Packers fans were there, but the place was packed compared to yesterday, where it was very, there was a pretty good scarcity of people there compared. So USC is not playing well, so you can't say that. Well, fans just aren't coming, and then people want to blame the bandwagon fans. Well, the bandwagon, the true fans would show up. Well, they're true fans, but they're fans of other things too. So they're going to go to whatever is they can cheer for. People want to cheer. People want to go, oh my God, what's going on? If they have an opportunity to go somewhere and cheer, you're going to go do that.
Yeah, and today it's funny. Today in LA is the first time any city has had an NBA game, an NHL game, an NFL game, and
MLB and MLS.
Yeah, MLB. I'm only going to talk to major sports.
Wow.
But no, that's actually happened before. 4 has happened. 5 has not happened.
Oh, really?
Sports Equinox, the Super Equinox.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, and one of them being like a World Series and stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, it's 5-1 on top of the 8th. Sorry, Dodger fans.
5-1. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Is that why?
We have a question from John, who says,
Hi, John.
Is Helton so loyal to his assistants that he's willing to risk his job? I don't get it. And then we had a similar question that said, is Helton so loyal to Toa that he wouldn't move him for the better sake of the team? It's a lot of loyalty questions, which is an interesting theme with Helton.
There's a lot of loyalty, and I think he is genuinely a great human being. And sometimes to be a coach, I mean, you know what? You gotta kind of be a jerk sometimes. Like there's not always, every decision isn't great, and it's tough. You're going to put people in bad situations a lot of time. If Toa's not playing well, if you feel like they're the football experts. If they watch the film, they're like, he's the best option because that's what you honestly feel, then, go ahead. But if you feel like we could do something better, but I'm going to be loyal to him because I don't want to be mean or whatever, like, no, that's not the right thing to do. And as far as the assistants go, yeah, I think I don't know if it's stubborn. I think we brought this up with Colin. Like I said, it was stubborn. He said it wasn't stubborn, but there's something there where you just feel like this is what the team needs. You've made a decision and you want to stick to it. It's almost like you don't want to admit that a decision you made was wrong. I mean, I think a guy like Kirby Smart, who's had a lot of success, is he saying everything I did is wrong by going and do Hell Week during the bye week? I don't think so. It's just you're managing 100, teenagers and early 20-year-old guys. Like, there's a lot to go on. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of personalities. Just the three of us in a room, how many personalities? You put 100 plus all the coaches, and then the parents. Like, there's a lot going on. There's so much going on. If you have to change your mind, that's okay. You can take a different course because, this whole group of kids, they're not acting the way I thought. It's like trying to control a swarm of bees or something. Like, you can do something different. And I just feel like he's reluctant to do that, maybe because he doesn't have a lot of experience, and what he's relying on is the plan that him and his father probably put together when he got the job. Hey, very happy to be here. This is a surprise. Come up with a plan. And I think he's reluctant to get away from that plan because he doesn't really have other things to rely on. He doesn't have other experience. Like, if you've made mistakes, Ed Orgeron has been a head coach 3 different places now. He can go back to, you know what, when I was at Ole Miss and things got crazy, I shut the media out and I acted like a jerk. He's not going to do that again. So I think he's learned from that, and it's hard. I feel like Clay Helton could learn on the job, but it's probably going to be what he learns at this job will be applied to the next job, because I don't think he's going to be able to make the changes as he's going along, just because he's sticking to that original plan and, maybe to a fault.
Agreed. We have a question from Jeb, who says, what would be he had a typo. What would be the official branch-breaking moment for a certain Helton firing?
Branch-breaking moment. Well, USC's 4-4, so 7-5 is a realistic possibility. That seemed like it wouldn't be great going into the season, but it's funny, when you start off 1-2, it was worse than I thought it would be. If USC finishes 7-5, it's almost like now more acceptable. Like, that seems like a more realistic thing. Where if you had asked like a month and a half ago, like 7-5, you're like, oh, things are going to be really bad. Yep. I mean, they are really bad. I think the really bad thing would be to lose to both rivals. I think that's what it is. You lose on the road to Oregon State, that would be pretty awful. Now, they just won a game. They 28-point comeback against Colorado on the road.
Which I did not realize they were down 28 points. I'm baffled by that. Colorado could
Jake
lose.
Luton's back, so you're kind of catching. I think you caught Arizona, Arizona State coming off like. I told you they were going to bounce back. They had, Manny Wilkins had a bad game against Stanford. He was going to play better. He did.
And Harvey said on your podcast that the Arizona State coaches circled this matchup.
Yeah.
They wanted to win.
They knew about this one. And I don't know if Oregon State circled this one, but you are going to catch them when they finally won a game. I think they had like 22 games, road games they hadn't won, like 14 conference games they hadn't won. And they get their, Jake Luton back, who'd been hurt most of the year. He comes in the second half and throws for over 300 yards. I just voted for him Pac-12 offensive MVP. There's a lot of really good candidates for that, but you're going to catch Oregon State on an upswing. Now, they've had some stinker games where, they've just been bad. But this last one wasn't. They started off bad, and they came back from a 28-point deficit. And not only that, they tie the game at 34 and miss the extra point. They would have won the game in regulation. Their kicker misses the extra point, so they have to go to overtime. They could be very down at that point because you just we just made the great comeback. Oh, we missed the extra point. We're going to blow it. No, they won it in overtime. That's pretty impressive. So Jonathan Smith, who came over from Washington, great win for him. So that's a game. It wouldn't be terrible to lose to Oregon State because I think they're a pretty decent team and they're better now. But on paper, that looks awful. That could be one of those, signature moments too. So there's a bunch. Cal, that's going to be homecoming. You're going to expect a pretty big crowd. They just got a huge win. They beat Washington without scoring an offensive touchdown. There's landmines throughout this. So I think the main thing is the UCLA and Notre Dame games because you can always put your stock in that. But at this point, I don't know. It's like every week is going to be a whole different story, and then we'll be back here talking about.
That's what I'm saying. It's so inconsistent. Like there's on paper how things should go, and then you get to the game and you're like, oh, okay, this team is not as consistent as we thought.
And the Pac-12's drunk. On Saturday, every underdog in the Pac-12 won.
Arizona beat the dog crap out of Oregon.
Crushed Oregon.
J.J. Taylor went and flipped over people. And he's like this big. He's like 5'1".
You're talking about teams that look crappy one week and amaze balls the next week. The Pac-12 is drunk. Every underdog on Saturday won. The only underdog that didn't win was the Friday game. UCLA got boat raced by Utah. So
yeah, but when has USC looked really good? You said every week someone looks really good, but
true.
USC got to win against Washington State, so that's like that's the the class of the conference right now.
They looked better in that game,
but they won the game.
That's
true.
Least, that would be the other game where it did actually show some fight, Keely.
True.
When you see that.
True.
Jonathan asked a similar question, but he said, "Now, which loss would impact USC in the perspective of the staff more, Oregon State or UCLA? Which loss do you think? I mean." I think now that Oregon State is coming off this win, if Oregon State didn't have that win last week, I think then Oregon State maybe even though it's a rivalry game at UCLA, I don't know. But UCLA also looks like dog poo too. So
they had 2 weeks where they looked okay, and then they looked like dog poo again.
Well, I think it's just they're playing Utah, and Utah's showing that their offense is so much different in the last month. But they're actually going to be a good team.
They're better than what they were in the beginning of the season, for
definitely.
sure, when they start off 0-5.
What is growth during the season? I don't know what that means. In the same vein, we have a question from Steve who says, which two teams can USC beat to get 6 wins? So he's very pessimistic.
Cal, Oregon State, UCLA.
Yeah, any of the conference games. I mean, it'll be tough to beat Notre Dame. But they've looked beatable at times, too. It's just, the way USC's playing right now. No, but any of I think they're all coin flips, essentially.
I don't think the first 3 are coin flips, but they definitely can beat those next 3 teams.
No, they can beat it, but I mean,
I don't think Notre Dame's really a coin flip. I think
Notre Dame's not. But the conference games, I think, are, those could probably go either way.
Jason Kane, who I believe is in Japan, so thanks for watching us.
Hey, Jason.
He says, does Lynn Swann, with vacancies in the university president position, have the authority to make changes at the end of the year?
That's the question. I don't know.
It's the lack of leadership. Like, we've talked about this a zillion times. Like, interim president, I don't think she wants to have anything to do with this. They would much rather just not have to change football coaches right now. And my gut feeling is Lynn Swann does not want to have his hand forced, but he's hearing it from everyone. I mean, what the big thing's going to be is a lot of people pledged millions and millions of dollars for that tower in the Coliseum. And if they're unhappy, that's like what matters. So if those people are unhappy, I think that's going to resonate with Lynn Swann. But it's hard to say what he can do. Is he just a CEO? Is he just a figurehead? I think they anticipated something would happen, but not this year. It's happening at a bad time because they don't have a president, and there's so much instability. But this is, you reap what you sow. You hire an athletic director who's never done this before. Like, this is the kind of stuff. I went through and looked at all the experience for all the other Pac-12 athletic directors. No one's like Lynn Swann. Like, USC did something that no one else has done. The closest thing is Ray Anderson at Arizona State, who was a former sports agent, who was a VP for the Atlanta Falcons. Like, he was in sports.
Business.
Yes, business sports. Like, he's done it already. Everyone else has been an athletic director somewhere. Like, every other athletic director has been an athletic director in the Pac-12 except Lynn Swann.
School where
the most prestigious school,
in the conference.
So you're doing, the Coliseum renovation. Has anyone ever put a building in the middle of a stadium? No, USC's doing it. Like, they're doing things that no one else does. There's probably a reason why no one else is doing these things. But it's all coming back. You make a bad decision now, it might not, you might not see the results for a couple of years. And I think this is one of those things where you go back-to-back athletic directors that have never done it before. If you do it once, maybe that's fine. But, you've done it twice in a row, just former football players. I don't get that.
And I thought Arizona State was the leader in innovation. If you watch the Stanford game, they were really touting that really heavily. But apparently USC is, because they're going to do things No one's ever done.
Yeah, and so Arizona State hires, Ray Anderson, but they make it like this is going to be a revolution. Like they did it for a reason. Like they're changing everything. Like you could argue it's terrible, but but I mean, some of the stuff seems to work. But they're doing this. They're doing it differently. Like there's a plan in place. USC just hired an inexperienced athletic director to do exactly the same kind of things as before. It's not like there was some innovative thinking coming into this. Like this was Arizona State's plan. So argue it's bad or good or bad plan. They had a plan at least.
True.
I don't like their plan, but
but there's a plan.
Any Periscope or YouTube questions?
I got plenty of questions over here. I've been racking them up.
USC 04 says fire everyone.
That's not a question.
I know.
Anthony asked, what would happen if we do not become bowl eligible? Would everyone be let go?
I think if you're not, that's a brand.
5 and 7, I think it's like, then I think everybody's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's no kind of question with that.
Austin wanted to apologize for us. He said, sorry for you guys. The coaching staff's making your jobs way harder than it should be.
I don't know if it's harder. I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely more fun to cover like 2016 was fun, like you had like the horribleness at the beginning. And then you had like this amazing run. I was like, that was pretty fun. Like, This isn't fun. Like, fans are indifferent, and it's not as fun to.
Or they get mad at us, which is just like, we're not.
Like our fault. Yeah, it's like our fault. Like if you ask tougher questions, that'd fix it. It's like,
no.
Hey, I asked Clay Helton if he's going to make changes. He said no. I think it's Odysink. I don't know how to say her name. Loyalty is overrated. Helton is a nice guy, but we're a lot closer to Vanderbilt than Alabama. I mean, I think it's
That's
true.
True. Loyalty's not overrated, though.
No, yeah, there's loyalty, but then there's loyalty to a fault.
To a fault.
And I think when Clay Helton's saying you're close to like beating you're Vanderbilt close to beating South Carolina. Like who cares? You got to be LSU getting close to beating Alabama. That's what you want to be close to. So don't say we're close. Like your goal is not to be here. Your goal is to be here. You're not close to that. That's where I have the issue.
Yeah, him saying that they were close today was kind of another one of those quotes you're just like, really? That's what you think?
Yeah.
Because nobody else around here, at least not our staff, thinks that they're close.
Close to what? Like, what's the goal here?
That's the thing. Like, they're like, oh, we're close. We're almost there. We're almost
to getting close to winning the Pac-12 South. Like that's.
And you guys, it's 4-4. You're 8 games of the season. Why are you close now? If you're saying this like 1 game in, sure, maybe, but I just don't.
Keely's so mean.
I feel like they still think that like
I got frustrated. It's like
no, that's fine.
it seems like they're still waiting. Like, oh, just this happens, like everything's gonna click, but it's not.
I mean, if you practice more consistently or harder, then maybe.
Yeah.
But how?
I mean, if the offensive line started mauling people, yes, everything would change. But that's the one thing that it would take for this offense to start clicking, and then therefore the defense wouldn't be on the field as much. But that's not happening.
No. And I think fans feel that frustration too. I mean, we can see it from the comments and stuff where if you're trying to open up some great restaurant, some Michelin star restaurant, and you got a sign in the window and it's a C, and you're like, you clean things up a little bit and you're almost getting a B. You're like, hey, we're almost to a B. Like, you're supposed to be like a Michelin star restaurant. Like, yes, that's nice that you're close to becoming a B, but you need to be bringing in like high ticket people in here and huge chefs and stuff like that. So it seems like the expectations of the coaching staff they set were, hey, this is the team we want to try to make the playoffs and we want to be there. They're not getting close to that, but they're touting like, oh, we're close, but you're not close to what your ultimate goal is. And that's what the fans remember. They remember him saying, we want to be a championship team, and they're just nowhere near that.
And speaking of that, Jasper Smith asked, Jasper, I'm going to give you a little accent, even though you probably don't have one. Just because this is something that a friend of mine from back in college would say. He's like, Helton's a nice man, albeit a damn liar. Where's the physical run game he's been promising 3 years ago? Now, that's true. That's one of the things. You're close. What are you close to? Are you close to what you said when you got here? We want to be a physical run-first team. They're not close to that. They're not close to that at all. So, Jasper, you probably don't have an accent, but I gave you one, and you're actually correct.
Jasper, please tell us your origin.
Yeah.
So I know what your accent.
It is funny because
Where are you
remember when
from?
Sark came in, Sark talked about they were going to run like super high tempo stuff. In the first Fresno State game, they ran like 100-something plays.
They were like, no.
Then they played Stanford next week and ran like 55 plays or something. And Clay Helton came in, and that's what his goal was. But for whatever reason, that was abandoned. And I feel like some of his supporters early that backed him, former players and things like that, That's what they were told. And they were like, the old school guys, they were like, oh, physical football. And they feel like they were lied to.
Mentality.
And they feel like they were lied to because that's not the way this team has been. It's a soft football team. And I think when you practice soft, that's what you're going to see on the field.
Speaking of, I was on the Arizona State sideline because I roam around the entire field.
You do roam.
And
a lot of steps.
They're not just their players, but some of their staff as well were yelling at the USC defense, calling them soft. You're soft. You're soft. And like, it was repetitive. So I don't know if that word got back to Clay Helton. I wanted to ask him today, couldn't get him on the call, but something I will try to ask this week. That has become the perception of this team, that they're soft.
That's tough to ask. Like, it's like hard to like.
How do you ask that without pissing everybody off?
You guys will see on Tuesday.
I mean, you could ask some of the defenders. We could ask them on Wednesday. Like, did you hear some of those?
I got this, guys. I got this.
All right.
We'll see what
Jasper also asked, would you guys bench Toa if you were the coach? I don't think I would bench him.
I would move him to guard. I have said this from the beginning. Move Toa to guard and have Nealon come in. That would be me. I'm not an offensive line coach, so.
I like the way Brett Nealon's come in and played, so.
I don't know. If you're putting a strain on your quarterback, I feel like that's time to think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think when you're talking about, I mean, you remember, you're closer to being 21 years old than we are, and you're closer than I am.
2 years ago.
But you can make changes to players and have it have a significant impact. Adding music or whatever before some practice, like those little things change. They have the same exact meal after every game. Like they do the same thing day in and day out. That has to get repetitive. Every aspect of it seems like exactly the same. Get rid of whatever that is and bring in Chick-fil-A after the games. Like that, pizza, whatever it is. To do something different any chance you get just to change the attitude a little bit. Like you're on a 2-game losing streak. I'm not thinking you don't want to keep doing exactly what you're doing, and that's what they're doing.
I mean, and when that happens, I don't feel like there's any sense of consequences. Like if you know nothing's going to change, why does it matter?
Right. If Toa thinks he's going to get benched, does he snap better?
I mean, to be fair, Toa did change his technique, so he's trying. But like, as far as like losing to ASU, is it that big of a deal? You know nothing's going to happen when you get to practice. You're still going to do the same thing. Is your job in jeopardy? I don't think so.
I mean, the question becomes, do you think, if you make the move that Keely suggested, do you think Toa or do you think Brett Nealon is better than Andrew Voorhees? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the offensive grades on Pro Football Focus over the entire year, Andrew Voorhees is the lowest rated offensive lineman, starting lineman. So if that was the move you're going to make, that's the decision it comes down to. Is Brett Nealon better than Andrew Voorhees? Because you would move him, because you're not moving Chris Brown. Chris Brown's your best offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So you're not moving him. So it becomes down to that. And so far, the coaching staff has not made that move. So I think that they feel more confident in Andrew Voorhees than they do Brett Nealon.
Ravenous Ute wants to know, how long would it take to get a team physical? Fall camp, half season, full season? Yeah, is it like too late to do that? I mean, I think at this point you have a few games left. You could still, if they came out Monday and we're doing a full pads practice, which you normally don't do, which they're not going to do this, so don't think that there's some kind of inside information here. I think that would, I'm not saying it's going to toughen everyone up and they're going to play really well at Oregon State, but I think it's enough of a jolt to the system that you might impact things. I think overall you kind of have to practice that way. Spring ball, fall camp, all that kind of stuff.
Off-season thing. To change a mentality, it has to be done in the off-season. Now, can you change some things and do better? Yeah. But to completely overhaul something, that's something that comes in the off-season. So with that, you would think you have to do something different in the off-season as well, whereas they've had the same strength and conditioning coach the entire time. And they have a lot of confidence in Ivan Lewis. I mean, the players like Ivan Lewis. I know we've had some questions. Sorry, I don't have you guys' names pulled up right here, but about how do the players feel after this? Are they mad at Clay Helton? And no, like Jordan Iosefa was asked, do you think about your head coach's future when you guys lose these games? And he was just kind of confused by the question. He's like, no, he's the best. He's like, he cares about his players. He cares about, there's more. And he was saying, he didn't really say if there's more than wins and losses, but that was kind of what the back of his comments actually came out. he had that in his mind. He's like, why would you even think that?
Right.
He was very kind of baffled by the question. And he was pretty upset. A lot of the players were upset after this game. I know that was another question that was asked. But, yeah, there was – I think Jordan even said that he's already cried his tears.
Yeah.
Tufele cried, according to Clay Helton. And even Jack Sears, to the point you made earlier, said he was like, I'll play every down, every game for Clay Helton. Like, I believe in him. So – I mean, and the thing is, we always preface it, and people call us out for it. We always preface, like, oh, Clay Helton's such a great guy. And we're just with the media, we're not playing for Helton. We're not seeing him as much as the players are. So, of course, they're going to back up their coach and when he's that nice of a guy. But it's hard.
I got an email from Ray. He said, listening to Tunnel Vision last night, Ryan, why do you apologize for T. Martin? He's horrible. He's 1A to go after Clay Helton. Just listen to him speak to reporters. He makes my head spin. Listen to Colin Cowherd. Quit being a homer. Ray from Florida, formerly of Orange County, a 20-year season ticket holder. I don't think I was an apologist for T. Martin, but when people they don't like the way the offense looks, I'm just saying I don't think T. Martin created this offense. I think he's calling the plays and most of them doing that, but I don't think this is some T. Martin design. But you saw I thought it was a lot better looking against Arizona State, at least in stretches. But no, I mean I think there's blame to go around, but I wouldn't say I'm a T. Martin apologist, but I just don't throw all the blame on him, fire him. That's going to fix everything. I just don't think that's the case.
And the question we talked about earlier with Jack Sears versus JT Daniels, if JT Daniels is healthy, I think JT Daniels is the better option. I think he's the better quarterback. However, I think you got to go with the game plan. Clay said that T. Martin made a very simple game plan, but it was very effective. And if it was very simple, I mean, they scored 35 points.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is the game where you go after T. Martin. I know one of those was on the punt return, but they still scored 35 points in this game, and I thought it was a much better game plan for Jack Sears than some of the game plans they've had for JT Daniels. Also, I don't think Arizona State's defense is that great, so that helps. But
they've only given up 28 points all season. I mean, the USC offense did pretty well.
Yeah, they outscored everyone else. There you go.
Well, they played Washington, Michigan State, Stanford. I mean, it's not. I thought they did pretty good, but you would like to see that game plan. If it's simple and effective, why can't JT Daniels run it? I'm not sure why not.
And some people asked, is Jack Sears a better quarterback for this offense because he's more mobile and because he can do more Darnold things? And somebody, Josh asked, do you guys agree that Sears looks similar to Darnold? I think he is similar to where he shows better in the games he does in practice, because in practice you're pulling up whenever anyone gets close to the quarterback. You can still make guys miss and stuff. But I thought I said earlier, I thought he was a little skittish early, and I thought he was making one read and then looking to get outside the pocket when he didn't need to. But he used his legs more effectively later on that 2-minute drive and later in the game. He started looking like, okay, well, if he needs to run, he can. Whereas JT has taken off several times this year as well, and JT will pick you up 5 yards on a scrambler or stuff. I think Sears is more dynamic as a runner, obviously, but I don't think that he's anywhere close to Darnold with Darnold's ability to throw on the run in that regard. And I don't think that the USC offense has to have someone who's running for their life to throw the ball. It helps because it seems like the quarterbacks are running a lot of times, running out of the pocket a lot of times, but I don't think that that's necessary. But I think if you make the game plan similar to this one, or you do some things similar to this game plan where they made things easier on the quarterback, get him outside of the pocket when need be, and doing some different things with quick games and short games and different things like that, and then opening it up later in the game, throwing the deep balls a couple times. That worked.
We have reached the 8 p.m. mark. Do we want to get some final questions in rapid fire? It looks like Dodgers are going to lose the World Series, so...
SoCal MAB says, do you think that this team just isn't built for a pocket passer like JT? Sam was mobile like Sears. What do you think about that?
I think I just answered all that question.
Yeah, I kind of did
like
that.
he did.
All right.
Mike says, Shotgun, how frustrating was it for you when you tried to get some answers from Neil Callaway this week?
Well, yeah, that was... Neil Callaway did not want...
That can't be frustrating because you expect that, right?
At least he talked this time. Last year he walked away from me during one interview, so he just decided he'd had enough. But it was just kind of mind-blowing that he thought that they'd had success. When I asked him that, I asked him why they're not being successful. He's like, "Well, we've had success." And that's what I wrote. It was like, I don't, I guess, define success the same way as he does. So,
Yeah.
what's the noise coming from the donors after the loss? Are they now vocal? Ryan, you hear anything about from
I
the
haven't
donors?
really heard anything specific, but there's some rumblings, but it's kind of like a wait and see thing right now. I think the Arizona State loss is a step. If you're like just wanting Clay Helton to be fired, that certainly was a step in that direction.
How does every other team find the balance of practicing hard and not getting hurt? Has anybody
know.
covered anybody besides USC?
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard to say.
We haven't.
We haven't, at least. You've
He
covered
hasn't.
other USC teams,
Yeah,
at least.
I've
True.
covered Fresno State, like up their practices and stuff. We didn't get to watch the whole thing, but we could watch the beginning, and definitely things that were run differently. It's just there's different ways to do it, but the way USC does it, it seems like the problem is it seems like Clay Helton learned about this team during the sanction era,
Yeah.
and they're acting like it's the sanction era, and it's not anymore.
Well,
agree with that.
speaking of sanctions / injuries, being worried about injuries, how concerning would it be for USC about the secondary now that you have Talanoa Hufanga out basically for the rest of the season, and then Marvell tells TBD?
Yeah, and Jasper asked the same question, who would be the starting safeties going forward? Marvell, if he's healthy, I think they will stick with a Janae at safety. I think they have more confidence in Jonathan Lockett than C.J. Pollard at this point.
Yeah.
And I haven't got the chance to rewatch the game yet fully, so I haven't seen exactly how Janae. I know we got beat on the N'Keal Harry play, but besides that, it seemed like he played all right.
Phil Harry beats a lot of people, so it's not too bad. Yeah.
That's true. But so I think that's the decision they have to make is, okay, do we trust a Janae versus, or Jonathan Lockett versus C.J. Pollard there? And with Marvell back, you don't necessarily have to have a Janae back there because I think a Janae was running the defense more because he
Yeah.
knows the defense better
Yeah.
in that regard. So they can make the switch back and they say, okay, Marvell now can tell everybody what to do now that he's back there, and then you can put C.J. back there. So I think they have options there, though that's not the options you want to have to be looking at this part of the season. If they get Chase Williams back, that
Yeah.
gives them another option.
He
He's been
wasn't dressed
injured.
for that, yeah.
So I think Marvell's there, and then you have the option between C.J. Ajene and Jonathan Lockett for those two positions, kind of. So we'll see exactly what they do. Not known as of yet. We'll see more on Tuesday if Marvell is ready. If not, then you're going to have Ajene and C.J. Pollard if
Yeah.
Marvell's not ready.
Yeah, which is this safety group is cursed or something. It's just people were asking Clancy Prendergast, have you ever seen an injury bug and bad luck fortune go towards a position group? He's like, I've never seen this in my career. So it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
And he's had an illustrious career, a long career. So.
He's done. But I mean, there's some things they could have done where they didn't really like Jamel Cook. I liked him as safety, and they just kind of poo-pooed him there. They would kill for him right now to be the safety. Or, Keely Ross. I know there were some temper tantrums and things going on, but that, could have handled that differently, and he would still be around. So I think some of it was under the coach's control, too. It's not all just bad fortune that just happened.
True. Very true indeed.
Were you impressed by Jalen McKenzie at right tackle? I did okay.
I got to watch again,
Yeah.
but he's, he was there for at least half the game, right?
Yeah, Schumer went out at the beginning of the end of the first half.
Yeah.
So right before the 2 minute, or in the 2 minute drive, actually, in the middle of the 2 minute drive, if I remember.
For him to
correctly.
come in and do that. But I think that's the other issue is I think USC has some guys that can come in and play. So if someone does get a couple penalties, why don't you see them? Like, it's not like there was this huge drop off. So yeah.
True. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
White Po' Boy wanted less 5-star wide receivers, more 5-star offensive linemen.
Did you see what those 5-star wide receivers did? Like, you needed that.
Threw for a touchdown, caught a touchdown, ran for a touchdown.
That was a pretty pass
threw
from
a touchdown to a touchdown.
Yeah.
But also, why not just get both?
Yeah.
I mean, USC.
Don't neglect the 5-star wide receivers.
Yeah, USC can perfectly do that. Jared asked, is there any chance that USC can cancel the Alabama game in 2020?
2020. Anthony asked me that.
Yeah. No, I
should.
don't think there is, but they're not really close to being ready for that right now. So
No.
And who knows? Saban may be gone by then. So, does the 14-game winning streak against Cal end this year?
Ooh.
that's a good one. They are so up and down. Like it's to me, it's like a coin flip. They are up and down. They're not very good offensively. I kind of think USC is going to take care of business. It's home. It's they're not a very good offensive team, but they are very good on defense. So I kind of think USC will win that one.
I think they win
gut.
because I don't like either one of those quarterbacks right now.
Ross Bowers looked. I mean, they haven't even really played him. McElwain's like pretty much bench. Now it's Garbers, and McElwain I think had like 2 snaps in that one, but he was a turnover machine when they named him the starter.
I really like Chase Garbers too. Really
Yeah.
nice kid. The USC actually liked, and were trying to get him to talk
Transfer,
him in, and to not to transfer, but to coming out of high school. He was a guy that they were trying to get to add to the class, but it was kind of a dead position. It's like, hey, we want to come in and sit behind Sam Darnold for a couple years.
Jason really wants us to address the timeout mismanagement by Clay Helton.
Jason, that's all your questions. Well.
So what are we talking about? So
Can I get your thoughts on the fact that Helton again burned timeouts early in the half that burned him at the end of the half? At the end of the game, in this case.
So the timeout he had to take before the go for it on 4th down.
And that one is whatever. They had one earlier in the second half. They just burned the timeout. I think before a defensive snap or something. I don't remember exactly, but the fact that we can't remember it tells us that it was wasted.
Yeah,
It may have been like a time winding down on the play clock or
I
something.
can
like that.
pull it
I
up.
think someone was confused on offense. I can see it on the opposite side of the field, but I'm not exactly sure.
Oh yeah, that's right. They were trying to send somebody in motion, and there was some confusion. So yeah, and that's not necessarily Helton burning the
sometimes
timeout.
stuff like that happens. I'm not
But they could use that timeout at the end of the game.
sure. Yeah, that would have helped.
Definitely could.
I got 2 more. I got Will says, "Is it sad that a part of me is now rooting against USC so that Helton gets fired?" Yes, that is sad.
One of the top comments on Instant Analysis is, "Thanks, Arizona State. We might get a new head coach."
And one for Keely. Scott asked, "How bad was the vibe on the sideline during the first 28 minutes of the game?" Even the broadcasters brought it up. I didn't really notice it early in the game. No. However, when Manny Wilkins ran for that touchdown, it went dead silent. Sounded like a funeral on that side of this. You could hear the Arizona, and there weren't that many Arizona State fans there in that section, in the away section, like there can sometimes be. But that was all you heard. It was
dead.
Silent. Like people were still sitting there, like comprehending it before realizing, like, all right, I guess we can leave now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as soon, and then once, like when they're getting ready for the kickoff, you just saw like streams of people going towards the tunnels. But before that, it was just like, what just happened? Did that really just happen?
Yeah, they couldn't believe it.
And that was the play that Talanoa got hurt on. Talanoa sold out to get the run, and Manny Wilkins pulled it. So I think that was actually Talanoa's responsibility on that play. But he went for the running back, and I think he hits the running back with his arm, and that's how he broke his collarbone. But
Yep.
We had a Dido
Thanks for
ELM.
answering
I
the
think we have a
question directed to me, Shaka.
super fan here, Dido ELM. I'll be in the stands in Corvallis on Saturday. Fight on! So we got some people that are
I'll
going
be
to make
there.
the trip.
I will be
Nice.
call Keely out and tell her that stock neutral's not a thing.
Oh, and then
there. Tell me that it is a thing.
Molly said timeout was spent on Vaughn's dropped TD.
No,
Was
I
there
don't think so.
was there a timeout called for that one? I'll have to take a look.
Yes, there was. There was. Because I remember making a joke that No. I remember making a joke that it was going to be a Vegas
two
jet
people say
sweep.
that, yeah.
But there was a timeout before that. In
Or
the
on
third
the play,
quarter.
or did they call
Before.
timeout to maybe to review it? Maybe it was. Oh, it was before that.
It was
Okay.
before.
Oh, that's what it was. They called a timeout to review it. No,
Oh.
to try to get them to review it. I think so.
We have a lot of
Anyways,
people say
Clearly,
that.
we remember these timeouts very well.
the other one must have been in the first half when the motion one.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Guess we should wrap it up. Someone said longest tunnel vision ever.
That's not true at all.
Alex, it's not the longest ever. Alex,
I think
come
we've
on.
definitely had longer ones.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Plus, our YouTube one didn't start till late, so we got a little extra for them.
True. A little bonus for them. Thanks, Steve. He said safe travels to me. Thank
Oh,
you.
nice.
Alrighty. That's going to wrap it up. Of course, we will have Tunnel Vision again on Thursday. We're going to be previewing USC's trip to Oregon State. We'll be talking about what happened in practice this week. If there are any changes, we'll see. Don't hold your breath. Don't count on it.
There will be any.
Yeah, I mean, you did ask, and he said no. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Alrighty, that's Shotgun Spratling. That's Ryan Abraham. I'm Keely Eure. We will see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you.